Let me add myself. Good afternoon and welcome to the best of the 7-5. Why I call 757? We all in the 757. It's time for that GA, that lady that knows how to get out there in the 757 and get the job done. I'm talking about the one and only, that community activist, the one and only Georgia Allen, community activist. Come on in the house. Come on in the house.
Hello, hello, hello. I am so excited and sad to be here with you this afternoon again. I am Georgia F. Allen with GA4 Justice, because it's always the right time to do justice in the community. Today's KWANZAA principal focus is NIA, or purpose, and that is to make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. Our topic, as always, is vote. It's going to be always vote for me, but the other topic is B.I.G.G. And you're probably saying, what is BIG? Well, BIG is buying intentionally for the greater good. And that is the greater good of our community, because a lot of times we start having fits about what's going on in society and all. And if we began to buy intentionally for the greater good, I think we're going to see some real differences and some real changes. Our faith message is, for we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do, which gets back to purpose. What is our purpose? Our purpose is to do good work. And I want to bring you greetings. Again, it's Thursday. And as always, I like to thank Mr. Henderson Vaughn, aka Captain 85, aka the Dream Maker,
making them come true,
for opening up the airways to us. And we are on WVDM every Thursday at 12 o'clock noon. And this allows us to bring to our listening audience a conversation for information, a conversation for correction, as well as a conversation for transformation. I started doing a disclaimer because I talk about all types of topics and I have my own opinions. I wanted to make sure, because many of you are well aware that I have worked in the civil rights community. I've been a community activist for over 3 decades. Therefore, the various positions that I take are mine and mine alone. I do not speak on behalf of any particular group or organization or any other groups or organizations that I may be associated with or affiliated with. Today's show is about BIG. And you say, well, why are you doing BIG? I'm doing BIG because I believe it's important that when we spend our dollars, when we go into these businesses and pay for products and services, that we need to make sure that whenever we are buying intentionally. We're not haphazardly doing this. We know what we're doing and why we're doing what we're doing. And so I use the acronym BIG, which I made up, buying intentionally for the greater good. And I want you to think about that for a moment, because we hear all the time, we want to boycott, we want to do this, we want to do that. And back in the day, boycotts were much easier to do than they are today, because we tended to work as a collective. We didn't work so much as individuals. And if we decided that we were going to boycott something, we were able to get things from our neighbors. We had gardens, we had food. So therefore, if we decided to boycott a People's Drug Store or a Woolworth department store and do any of those things, we were still continuing to be taken care of because we had things within our community. We also had small stores that were Black owned in our community. So during that period of time, it was much easier to be able to continue to take care of our families as they needed to be taken care of. Today, we have tons and tons of big box stores. We have tons and tons of restaurants. And some of those restaurants may donate to groups, organizations, political entities against our best interests. And so you will hear grumblings in the community. Well, why doesn't this organization get out there and boycott? Well, if we boycott a store in a community where that is the only place where our community can get food or clothing and other materials, that can be detrimental to that community. If we're in areas where there is a grocery store, perhaps, or all of the grocery stores have been put out because a big store comes in and basically wipes out all of the little stores, then those people don't have options. Therefore, they would basically be a food desert. If there is no store at all because we boycott that store and we shut them down, and we don't have something in place to replace that store, then those persons who live in that community, who may live in the rural areas, they don't have options. Those of us who live in cities like Virginia Beach, we have a number of different types of businesses that we can go to get the things that we need. We have the big box stores that sell in large quantities. We also have the regular grocery stores where we can buy individual items and not buy in bulk. So we're in a different situation than maybe someone who's in the rural part of Virginia. So what we want to do in that case is to ask them to check that particular store that's in their community and go online, search the products that they have, and look and see, do they have a number of Black products in those stores that they can purchase? Do they have things in the grocery aisles that are Black-owned food products that they can purchase? Do they have things in the cosmetic department that are Black-owned businesses that they can purchase from? In cases like that, you want to use your big dollars. You want to buy intentionally. You want to go into that store, go directly to the aisle that sells products that are owned by companies, but they have an aisle or shelves that they can put their items on. You want to make sure that when you go into those stores, that you're able to find products that represent your community. Let's take, for example, Carl Kanai. Carl Kanai is a Black designer, and he has products that he makes. If you Google a particular company, and I'm not going to name any companies because I'm not going to intentionally advertise anybody. If I'm buying intentionally, I need to speak intentionally as well. So therefore, I need you, the consumer, to check and see what products are they selling? What company is it a part of? And are those companies Black-owned companies that I can purchase from? Many of you know that Diana Ross's daughter has hair care products. And you may want to see, do they carry this particular hair care product? If they do, then yes, I will go in to this particular store. Even though there's many other things about them that I don't care for, I will still go into that store and purchase all the products that I can that Diana Ross's daughter sells so that I can continue to support her and allow her to continue to make profit without buying all the other products as well. So I want you to be intentional about how you purchase. I call it a boycott. Instead of a boycott, let's do a boycott. We purposely buy, we intentionally buy in order to support our own industries because we have lots of them throughout the nation. We sell all types of products. We sell technology products. We sell all these various products. We need to be able to walk in those stores, but check them in advance. Don't wait until you walk in the store and then go, is that a Black-owned business? Where did that come from? That's not what you want to do. You want to do your research in advance. And there are a number of groups and organizations that you can go to and go online, and I had them all set and ready to go. Then my computer went down this morning, so I do apologize. But that does not stop you from doing your own research and finding companies and businesses that you can purchase from. It doesn't stop you from doing that. I will tell you one business that we know that has been supportive, and that is Costco. So if you're a member of some of these other big box stores, you can decide whether or not you want to keep your membership there, or whether or not when your membership ends, move it over to Costco. There's another store. A lot of people shop at the W store. Well, there's also Target. And Target has also supported many of the things that our community support. So if you don't want to go to the W, you can go to Target or Target, as many people like to call them. Mm. So make sure that you are buying intentionally, because when you buy intentionally, then you promote the greater good of your community, of your neighborhood, and make sure that the things that you're doing are beneficial to those in your family and those in your community. Okay, let's see what else we got going on here today. Many of you have heard that we lost an icon transition this week, and that is Nikki Giovanni. Nikki Giovanni has been a stalwart in our community. She is a poet, a writer. She was a poet, a writer. She's transitioned to the ancestors now, and she's poet, writer. She also was an activist. She was unapologetically Black, and she meant what she said, and she said what she means. And what we love so much about her is that her talent was amazing. Nikki taught at Virginia Tech College or University. She was there when the shooting took place. She would never cower down. She never minimized her greatness to make an oppressor feel comfortable. She never compromised herself, and she was a true woman of greatness. And she will always be remembered as one of the greatest American poets in history. And I want to say greatest American poet, and even internationally, she was well known. And the reason why I want to say greatest American poet is because while she was Black, that did not diminish her greatness in any way, shape, or form. A lot of times people have a tendency that when someone is Black, oh, she was the greatest Black poet. No, she was the greatest, one of the greatest American poets ever in America and throughout the nation. Nikki transitioned this week on December the 9th. She will be missed. She will definitely be missed, because I read her a lot when I was much, much younger. And I had the opportunity to see her at Virginia Tech. We had a national convention, not a national, a state convention at Virginia Tech for the NAACP one year. And we had students that we took up to Virginia Tech to see her in person. And she always, no matter the audience, and this is a thing that I really liked about her, she did not compromise herself, regardless of who the audience was. She still always spoke the truth. And a lot of times when people reach a certain level, they'll begin to cower down or to back down. And, I don't want to hurt this person's feelings, or I don't want to hurt that person's feelings. That's not the way Nikki operated. If she had something to say, she was going to say it. If she believed in something, she stood her ground. She did not compromise her beliefs. She stood up for what she believed in. She fought for what she believed in, and she challenged those who spoke against her. One of the quotes that she had is, "Everything is not about an audience. Some things are about the little things you do." And I listened to that, and I heard her when she said it, and I've listened to her a number of times, since her death. And I wish that more people who are in positions of authority, and I won't necessarily say power, because some people get real comfortable when they think that their title makes them powerful. And they begin to get very arrogant in that title by having that title. But at the same time, they will not speak truth. They will speak anything that makes others comfortable. And what I really truly enjoyed about her is she never, ever backed down from speaking truth. One of the quotes by Kwame Alexander, one of the ways Kwame Alexander described her, and Kwame is from this area here, he said she was a matter of fact blackness.
Mhm.
And I can definitely relate to that. She was this straight matter of fact. And she didn't hesitate to use terms that today, if you use them, and these are terms that she called black people, white people, blue, green, purple, or orange. If that was a name that she identified you as, she did not hesitate to publicly call you that. And most people be like, "Oh no, we can't say that. That's not correct. Let's not do that." Well, that was not Nikki. If she was going to speak to an issue, she spoke to it. When the shooting took place, I've watched some of the videos, and I remember one of the interviewers asked her, "Weren't you afraid of him?" She says, "No." She said, "No, I wasn't afraid of him." She said, "He was in my class, as a matter of fact, but I told them they were going to have to take him out of my class." And she said, "I even told him that, look, you're coming in my class, you're disrupting of my class, and you need to go." And it was like, "I don't want to go." She says, "There are two options. Plan A is you're going to leave, or I'm going to leave. But one of us is going to leave this classroom." And she talked to her head of the department, and she said to the head of the department, she says, "Look, you're going to have to remove him from my class." And she said, "I've worked with a lot of students. I work with PTSD students. I work with people with other types of disabilities and ailments." She said, "But this young man was evil." And she always called him Mr. She never called him by his first name. She always called him Mr. She said, "And I told them that he was evil and that he could not be in my class, because I was not going to be in a classroom with a student that was not going to follow any instructions whatsoever." And so he got removed from her class. But she knew from his behavior, she knew from his patterns, she knew that this was not the person that needed to be in her class. And she said, I never talk to my students alone. She said, I made that observation in the classroom in front of everybody so that nobody could ever go back and say, well, this is what I said, or, this is what she said. Everybody in the classroom knew clearly what I said to the young man. And I said, you can't be in here. One of us is going to have to leave. And it was just such a powerful way to remove someone from her class. And I just loved the way that she stood her ground and did not allow this young man to diminish the work that she needed to do with regards to all the other students, because he was disruptive to the point where she could not teach her class and she had work to do and she had students to impact their lives. And she was determined that she was going to make sure that happened. And so I know, as someone who has watched her over the years, who has listened to her over the years, who've read some of her works over the years, I'm going to truly miss her. I did not realize that she was as sick as she was. As a matter of fact, had I known, I was talking to someone, I said, had I known that she was that sick, I would look for a way for us to get up to Virginia Tech and at least try to visit her one more time before she transitioned. And so that's quite unfortunate. And to all of you young people out there, if there's anybody that you want to see, anybody, I want to encourage you to go and visit. If they're on a college campus and you hear that they're going to be speaking somewhere, or they come here locally and you hear about it, go and see them, because you never ever know when they may make transition. And again, I wish that I had known how sick that she really was, because I would have loved to have driven up to Virginia Tech and spent some time with her.
I'm just going to play this quick.
I can't lie to you.
Of course you can lie to me. And you will. If you love me and you're going off with Maddie someplace, you're lying to me. Because what the hell do I care about the truth? I care if you're there. What Billie Holiday say, hush now, don't explain.
All right, I accept that.
Of course. Of
All
course
right,
you lie to me.
that.
Because I don't even want to care. What does the truth matter? And why are you going to be truthful with me when you lie to everybody else? You lied when you smiled at that cracker down the job, right? Lie to me, smile. Treat me the same way you would treat him.
I can't treat you
You
the way I
must.
treat him.
You must. Because I've caught the frowns and the anger. He's happy with you. Of course he doesn't know you're unhappy. You grin at him all day long. You come home and I catch hell. Because I love you, I get least of you. I get the very minimum. And I'm saying, fake it with me. Is that too much of the black woman to ask of the black man?
Now, that's awesome. Did you hear what she said in that clip?
Yeah.
She said, you fake it with who? So if you're going to fake it with them, fake it with me too.
Yeah.
And that is Nikki Giovanni 100%. And there are a lot of people who are uncomfortable making those types of statements because, oh my gosh, somebody's going to say something about me saying that publicly. But keep in mind, that was one of the names that we called a group of people when we were young. That was a name that we used often. Okay. And so when she interviewed James Baldwin, that's the way she talked all the time. And that is the way she interviewed him. And so it's good to go back and listen to older clips and just listen to how our people used to talk to each other, used to dialogue with one another. Yeah. And again, we are truly going to miss Nikki Giovanni. Now I'm going to take a moment to do acknowledgments, announcements, and commemorations. And today, most of them are going to be birthdays. I mean, there are so many people born in the month of December, and this is just up to December the 13th. And I didn't even do all of them with that. But on December the 4th, Jay-Z and Tyra Banks had a birthday. On December the 5th, Lauren London had a birthday. On December the 11th, Mos Def birthday. December the 12th, Dionne Warwick and Regina Hall. December the 13th, which is tomorrow, Jamie Foxx and Nene Leakes. Nene Leakes. Okay. Those are all the birthdays for this part of the month. I'll make some more announcements about birthdays and other commemorations. But two of the commemorations that I do want to make sure that people are aware of, and that is the one on December the 10th that took place in 1964. That is when Dr. King became the second African American to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. The first, of course, there we go. I'm losing it. That's what happens. But anyway, I want to say Bunch. For some reason, I want to say Bunch, but I'm getting older now, and things that used to roll off the tongue doesn't roll off the tongue anymore.
Hello. Tell them again.
On December the 18th, in 1865, the Secretary of State, William Stewart, announced that the 13th Amendment had been ratified, which constitutionally abolished slavery in the United States of America. So keep that in mind. On December the 13th, 1865, with the ratification of the 13th Amendment. So how about that? On December the 18th, on December the 18th, 1865, the 13th Amendment was ratified to the Constitution, abolishing slavery. And then upcoming, of course, and I'll remind people each week, Christmas Day will be celebrated on December the 25th, as it always is every single year. And there will be holiday gatherings and holiday lightings and all types of things that we can participate in, our young people can participate in. There will be Christmas parades and things of that nature for young people to participate in. And I want to encourage you, check to see what events are going on in your local community that you can participate in to bring unity within your family as well as within your community. Also, in the month of December is KWANZAA will begin. KWANZAA begins on December the 26th, going to January the 1st. And there will be numerous activities and events all around the Hampton Roads area and all throughout the United States. So wherever you're living, I want to encourage you to participate in some of these activities. KWANZAA, of course, is a cultural event, so it tends to be more educational. It centers on the 7 principles of KWANZAA. And for those of you who are not familiar with the 7 principles of KWANZAA, the 7 principles of KWANZAA is Umoja, or unity, Kujichagulia, which is self-determination, Ujima, which is Ujaima, Ujaima, which is collective work and responsibility, Ujamaa, which is cooperative economics, Nia, which is purpose, and that is our time with you today, purpose, Kaumba, which is creativity, and then Imani, which is faith. And I encourage you to participate in those activities because it's really great way to build relationships in the community when you're participating in these activities. Unfortunately, Christmas got co-opted by corporations, and they focus more on how much money can they steal out of the American consumer pocket instead of focusing on how one can learn how to treat their fellow man more, or how someone can be better at supporting persons who may be in need. And while these things do get done every year, there doesn't seem to be an extension to that. There's one thing to give someone a plate of food. It's another thing that when you come to give them a plate of food, if they are in need of employment, that you have a list of places that those people can go to seek out employment. It's one thing to give someone a plate of food, but someone is in a situation where they need health care, that there is no doctor in these places where we're feeding the homeless or we're feeding persons in need, and there's not a health clinic that is set up temporarily to assist them in identifying any particular needs that need to be managed. So as we come into this holiday season and everything, I want us to continue to focus on B.I.G.G. And that is not only buying intentionally, but to also work intentionally for the good of others. Let's make sure that we think bigger than what we have been doing in the past. For years and decades, we have taken Christmas to mean that it's nothing but unwrapping gifts and giving people gifts. And many times, there are persons who would rather have something other than something to put on a shelf. And I know for myself, as I get older, buying intentionally for me is a gift card, and using that gift card so that I can accumulate them and maybe take a trip. Because one more thing in the house is not going to do me any good if my life expectancy is another 10 years. All I'm doing is accumulating stuff that I can't take anywhere with me. But a trip I can take, enjoy, have a good time, and so the holiday can have a different significance. It can have an educational significance because the trip that I take, I can also visit historical landmarks and get a firsthand idea about some of the things that have taken place in society when I was a young child, or even as recently as the George Floyd incident. So these are the type of things that we probably want to take a look at as we're beginning to prepare for the holiday season. Is B.I.G.G, buying intentionally for the greater good. Are we making sure that when we make our purchases, that they are beneficial and they have lasting impact? Are we making sure that when we purchase, that these are things that will be helpful to a family? Are we making sure that when we're doing our various celebrations, that those celebrations are not a one and done, but that's a continual, that is continuing. Instead of we feed a family every year, we got all these people that want to give somebody a turkey or do all these things. And believe me, those are nice things to do. It feeds the family. As a matter of fact, when you give away a turkey and you give away the other items that go along with it, it may feed the family for a week or two. But is there any type of follow-up to that? Do you invite the people who you feed to participate in their local community? Because that's also very important as well. Again, when we're looking at big, when we're looking at buying intentionally, we also need to look at voting. And you'll hear me talk about voting all the time. And the reason why I do, because it affects everything. It affects everything. If there is no grocery store in your community, you may need to speak with your council member, but you also need to speak with your planning, the planning commission group. You know, there's always planning commissions within your city, and they determine where things are going to go. They determine if a liquor store is going to go in your community. Well, if you don't need a liquor store, you may want to address that. You hear of them putting storage sheds in certain communities, but they don't necessarily put storage sheds in other communities. You may hear of them putting in a number of brewery places in a community, a number of smoke shops in communities, but they may not have as many in another community. Well, in order to get a business open, it has to go through planning. And if you don't want a bunch of smoke shops in your community, you may want to go to a planning meeting and let them know that you don't want that there. Because actually, that is using, because see, you're paying the city, which means you're making a purchase. When you pay your taxes, that's buying. That's buying to make sure you have representation. That is buying. You are buying. You are making a purchase. So when you're making these purchases, make sure you are intentional about the purchases that you're making to ensure that when you make these purchases, that you're getting a return on your investment, because that's basically what it is. Your city council members, you should be getting a return on that investment when you put someone on city council. You should be getting a return on your investment when you put a mayor in office. Is the mayor working on your behalf? Because if he's not, or she is not, then you need to hold them accountable. That is buying. That is buying representation. And a lot of people don't understand that when they vote, their vote is basically a purchase. It's almost like buying a piece of stock. Everybody who voted has one stock. One. That's all of us. That one vote, that is one piece of stock. That's what it is. And how are you using that stock? Is it building any type of investment? Is it growing? Is the stock growing? Because if it's not, then you need to do something different. If there were 30,000 of you that voted for a council member or voted for a mayor, then you got 30,000 issues of stock. Okay, so I want you to look at voting differently. I want you to look at your power differently than what you've been doing in the past. Because when you just look at it as simply a vote instead of stock and options, then you don't see the value of it as much as you would if you identified it in a different manner. Okay, let's value that as shares of stocks. Every time we vote in every election, let's look at it instead of just a simple ballot and a simple vote. Look at it as shares of stock. Again, big. You want to look at it big. You don't want to look at it as tiny. You want to look at it as big. Did you have anything that you wanted to share, Henderson?
Well, you always give them information on topics they need to know. I can only laugh in the humor of the things that people don't know. but you're on point today with the things that you're saying. And it's just that we sometimes overlook, as you say, we don't work together.
Right.
And what happens, we get an attitude, and then we get the wrong people in office because we just didn't really pay attention to. They ain't playing checkers, they playing chess.
Mm-hmm.
They already got 5 moves ahead of us before we even decide to do something.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to use this platform to make sure that people can look at voting differently than they have in the past. Let's not just look at our vote as simply, okay, I vote on election day and then I go away. No, you vote on election day and you stay. There's no more voting on election day and then going away. There's voting on election day and stay. And when we get that as a mindset, when we look at our vote as a share of stock, as shares of stock, now we can see it very differently. And we can look to get a return on our investment, because guess what? We're invested in the stock market. We're invested in the city bond market. Okay. We're invested in our city, and being invested in our city means we expect a return. We expect the stock market to go up. And why do we expect that? Because it's at 44,000 right now. So why shouldn't it be going up in my community? Why shouldn't it be going up in my home? When we're buying intentionally, when we're voting intentionally, we're making a purchase of stock. And when we ask for things and we push our elected officials to do things in our best interest, that's meaning we're using our stock options. We're using our stock options. So we're not sitting there expecting the stock to work without us working our options. We're using our stock options. And that's important. That's very, very important. Because if we don't see voting differently, if we don't, and that's why I use this time that I have to try to little by little engage each one of you, engage you, to get you to begin to think a little bit differently. Because if you don't change the way you think, you won't change the outcomes that are happening in your community. They're going to stay the same. Things are not going to get any different unless you begin to change. And so what I try to do each and every week, and I know I don't do things like the typical radio show and the typical television series. That, because I cannot be typical. I have to be me. I have to be authentically Georgia. And again, this is Georgia F. Allen with GA for Justice. And I come on every single Thursday at 12 o'clock noon. And if you want to hear information, not by the best, the brightest, or the greatest, but someone who believes strongly in justice, someone who believes strongly in my community, and someone who believes that there are things that we can do on our local level that can impact what's going to happen with our children, our grandchildren. And as I mentioned earlier, the first African American to receive the Nobel Peace Prize was Ralph Johnson Bunch. So I had the right last name, but I could not think of Ralph at the time. So I do apologize to the listening audience. But yes, it was Ralph Johnson Bunch, and he received the Nobel Peace Prize before Dr. King did, as the first African American to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. And look, we still have work to do, because there have not been that many Black people that have received the Nobel Peace Prize. And, you know, given the fact that the 34 convicted felon is supposed to be Times Magazine Man of the Year on the cover of Times Magazine.
Okay.
I'm like, well, why don't we just go out and what was the guy's name? The guy that told everybody to drink the juice and
the bleach.
no, not the bleach. I'm talking about that so-called Jim Jones.
Oh, Jim Jones, yeah. Over there.
Why we put him on the cover and call him the Man of the Year?
Yeah.
You know what's the difference between telling this many people to drink the poison and die, and someone that stood and did not give people the proper shots to the American people. And by the time he got out of office, almost 1 million people had died. Almost 1 million people had died by the time he got out of office. And we're talking from February to January the 20th. Okay. Almost a year. And we lost that many people. What's the difference between that and Jim Jones? Because it wasn't 1 million people.
Yeah.
It wasn't 1 million people with Jim Jones. Okay. So you put that person on the cover of a magazine. So I want people to keep in mind, you have to be busy all the time. You have to be engaged all the time. You have to look at your community all the time. And I really gave you a real simple thing that no matter how much money you make, that's something that you can do anywhere in your community. You can do big. You can go to Black-owned businesses. You can look at Charles Black, the Black Book. You can look at Seiko Varner, the Green Book. The Green Book is online. The Black Book is online. Charles Black, the Black Book, where he looks for Black-owned businesses that he can make the community aware of. So if you want to go big, buy from your own companies as much as you can. But if you have to go into some of these big box stores, and if you have to shopping places, then before you go there, go online, look, okay, who do they do business with? Who are some of their small minority-owned businesses that have items on the shelves? And when you find out who they are, then go and purchase those items that are on those shelves. These are things that you can do. Anybody can do big. Anybody can buy intentionally. Anybody can work for the greater good. Anybody can do that. You can go to these businesses all around the local area. You can go to the restaurants. You can go to the beauty salons and barber shops. You can go to these businesses that offer you an opportunity to have events at their localities and buy intentionally. Buy intentionally. It is a real simple process that anybody can do. Okay, we are coming up to the closing of the show. It is always good to talk to everybody each weekday, and I hope that a lot of what I shared with you today is a benefit and you can find it beneficial, but also use it. Don't just listen to it. Go out and do something in your own communities. This show goes out far and wide. You can listen to it all over the country. And when you're listening, I hope that you take some of this information with you, that you use it, that you don't lose it, and that you're repetitive about it. The one thing that I have found is that when we do some things, not everything, but when we do some things over and over again and they become a habit, we strengthen our community. If we make it a habit that we say, okay, every single Friday, I'm going to buy from a Black-owned business. That's it, period. Doesn't necessarily have to be the same Black-owned business. It could be a different one. But every Friday, I'm going to make a purchase at a Black-owned business. That is buying intentionally. If I have a habit of going out to dinner at least once a week, I can make a decision that once a week I will try out a new Black-owned business, a Black-owned restaurant. I can make a decision to do that. And if I do that enough, guess what? I'm going to find some Black-owned restaurants that I like, and I'm going to find some that I don't really care for. But that's okay, because I do the same thing when I go and buy from these other restaurants. There are some that I have gone to, and I will never, ever go to them again. That is the way it works. So don't get bent out of shape just because when you went to a particular Black-owned restaurant, it wasn't your cup of tea. That's okay. There are others. Go find one that is. All right. B.I.G.G. Buying intentionally for the greater good.
All
I'm
right.
going to end today kind of like I started with Nikki Giovanni, and I'm going to end with one of her poems. Nikki was born in 1943 and passed away, of course, on December the 9th, 2024. She was 81 years old. And this is her poem, and it's called Ego Tripping. And I hope you guys are ready for this. I was born in the Congo. I walked to the Fertile Crescent and built the Sphinx. I designed a pyramid so tough that a star that only glows every 100 years falls into the center, giving divine, perfect light. I am that. I sat on a throne drinking nectar with Allah. I got hot and sent an ice age to Europe to cool my thirst. My oldest daughter is Nefertiti. The tears from my birth pains created the Nile. I am a beautiful woman. I gazed on the forest and burned out the Sahara Desert with a packet of goat's meat and a change of clothes. I crossed it into hours. I am a gazelle, so swift you can't catch me. For a birthday present when he was 3, I gave my son Hannibal an elephant. He gave me Rome for Mother's Day. My strength flows ever on. My son Noah built Newark, and I stood proudly at the helm as we sailed on a soft summer day. I turned myself into myself and was Jesus. Men intone my loving name. All praises, all praises. I am the one who would save. I sewed diamonds in my backyard. My bowels delivered uranium. The fillings from my fingernails are semi-precious jewels. On a trip north, I caught a cold and blew my nose, giving oil to the Arab world. I am so hip, even my errors are correct. I sailed west to reach east and had to round off the earth as I went. The hair from my head thinned and gold was laid across 3 continents. I am so perfect, so divine, so ethereal, so surreal. I cannot be comprehended except by my permission. I mean, I can fly like a bird in the sky. That is Nikki Giovanni. Thank you.
Thank you. No doubt about it. Once again, another great show and a great topic because it's the season to be giving. And that's what you gave, a great poem by this great poet. Nevertheless, it's Christmas time and there's only a few more days before the end of the year. But I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in to GA4 Just Us each and every Thursday from 12 until 1. And don't forget to share this link with other people because it's the power of information that makes the nation. Until the next time we meet, to the next time we greet. See you next Thursday. GA for Justice.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.